Hi everyone, welcome to the second video of chapter 11 where we are learning about statistics. In this video, we are going to be talking about central tendency. This first page here is decently important, so make sure you have it, your notes organized in a way where you can come back and refer to this page as needed. It's a lot of vocab, but also how things are going to look in the calculator. So when we start with mean, well, you've heard this word before, the mean. We know that that's the average of a data set. This X bar right here, that's how it's going to look when you see the mean answer in your calculator. The mode is the value that occurs the most. A data set can have no mode, one mode, or more than one mode. The median is the middle value when values are written in numerical order. If a data set contains an even number of values, the median is the mean of the two middle values. So those words you've heard before, lower quartile and upper quartile. So that will be represented as Q1 and Q3 in your calculator. So the middle value of all the data sets less than the median is your low quartile, and the middle value of all the data larger than the median is the upper quartile. Another word you've heard before, the range, that is the max minus the min. Interquartile range, that's we usually see that as the IQR. So that's probably a new word for you. That's just where you take Q3 minus Q1. So your upper quartile minus your lower quartile. All right, standard deviation. So that's something we're going to talk a lot about in this chapter. So the standard deviation is a measure that describes the difference between a data value and the mean. So it's like when you have your mean or your average, well, how far away are those numbers from the mean? So that's our standard deviation. You can do that by hand, but it's definitely quite a bit of work. So here's where your calculator steps are, and you might need to come back to this sometimes if you can't remember. And these are the calculator steps to find all of these, the mean, median, mode, range, all of that stuff. So you're gonna, in your calculator, when you see that word stat and edit, stat is on this third row here. You'll see it kind of by the arrow, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Outlier, so you've heard the word outlier before. It's a value that's either much greater than or much less than most of the other values in a data set. So a general rule to follow is that an outlier is any data value larger than, and we have these two kind of equations here that you can use. So you'll take your upper quartile plus 1.5 times the IQR and your lower quartile minus 1.5 times the IQR, and that'll tell you if you have an outlier or not. So here's our first example here. So it says find central tendency and dispersion. So central tendency is any of several methods used to find a central value of two or more numbers. So that's like finding our mean, median, mode. That's basically what that's saying. So here, for this example, it says find the mean, Q1, median, Q3, mode, range, IQR, standard deviation, and any outliers of the data. So they've given us daily high temperatures week of June 21st through the 27th. So we have our days and the temperatures. So we have our numbers here. Okay. In the past, you guys have been able to find the mean, median, mode, range, all of that stuff by hand, but we're actually going to be using our calculator. So if you need that other page to see the steps, otherwise I'm going to talk about them here. So you're going to go to where the stat button is. So that's in this row right here. I just can't use my laser pointer to point over it on the calculator. So you click stat. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go to this edit the list here. So I'm going to click edit. And we've done this before in class. So you're going to add in these numbers here. So we've got 76, 74, and I'm just clicking the down arrow to get to the next line. I've got 70, 75, and 78. Oops. Okay, so I've got my 7 numbers here, and then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to go and click Stat again. Now look way at the top. Do you see how I have the Edit highlighted? You want to use your arrow and go over so you have the Calc highlighted, and you're going to go and click the one variable Stats. When you do that, that's going to give us all the information that you need. So notice here that mean, we've got that X bar. So the very first value here is our mean. So 73.1, I'm going to say. All right, so let's see, the next one I've got is the median. Let's see if I can find the median. So that's the MED, so that's 74. Okay, so notice that we don't see the mode, but the mode is just the one that happens the most. So I bet you could look at your numbers and think about, well, which one happens the most? And I think that that's going to be 70. Okay, and then we've got Q1 and Q3, so let's see if we can find that. Our Q1, our lower quartile is 70, and our upper quartile is 76. I'm just looking at these numbers here to find it. All right, and then our IQR, so that's our Q3 minus Q1, so that would be 76 minus 70. So our IQR, it's not in our calculator, but we can do that one. That's just 6. Okay. So our range is our max minus our min. Well, you could look at your numbers, which one's the biggest and which one's the smallest, but it does tell you your min and your max. If you look at the calculator, I see the max is 78 and the minimum is 69. So you could use that to help you, and it could be helpful if you have a lot of numbers, right? Like if we had more than just 7 numbers that we were working with. So our range is 9. The standard deviation, so we're looking for that, and remember that's that, it's denoted as sigma, is what that's called. So I see that there, it's right here, 3.22. Okay, so now we need to find any outliers. So what we're doing is we're taking, so we've got to take our upper quartile Q3 plus 1.5 times the IQR and Q1 minus 1.5 times the IQR. So I'm just going to use my calculator for that. So our Q3 was 70, hold on, 76 plus 1.5 times our IQR, which was 6. So that gives me 85. And then Q1 was 70, and we're going to take that minus times 1.5 times the IQR, and that gives me 61. So the way we figure out, are there any outliers here? Are there any numbers up here that are bigger than 85? No. Are there any numbers smaller than 61? No. So that means there are no outliers. Sorry. So think about this again, like if, let's say we had a number, let's just say we had another day of the week and it was 90, okay? Well, that would be an outlier then because it's greater than 85 and it's definitely greater than the rest of these numbers. Like that's not a normal temperature that we would see. So we use this method here so we can have specific numbers to identify outliers. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to try this example. Check it with the answer key of the notes that are in Schoology and see how you did. And make sure you let your teacher know if you have questions. And then I'm going to talk about this example really quick because you might see something that kind of comes up like this. So there's transformations to data. So here it says the data below are scores on a midterm test for calc students. So we've got 84, 89, and so on. The teacher also has available bonus assignment that will reward students with either adding 10 extra points or add 10% to their assessment score. Find the new central tendency and dispersion. So we're going to figure out, well, what are their original scores here? What's the mean, median, mode, range, and standard deviation of the original scores? Then if we add 10 points to all of these, what happens? And if we increase by 10%, so we multiply by, sorry, this should say multiply here, multiply by 1.1, what would happen to these numbers? Okay, so let's take a look in our calculator. I'm going to go back. I'm going to click Stat. edit my list again, and I'm going to go up and I usually click clear and then the down arrow, and it gets rid of all of those numbers. So we're going to type them in. We've got 84, 89, 98, 86, 96, 83, 87, 93, 91, and 93. Okay, so I've added in those numbers, and now I'm going to go back and click Stat again, and I'm going to highlight the calc at the top and do my one variable stats again. So this time I see that my mean is 90, my median is 90, and the mode, remember that's the one that happens the most. So let's just look up here, which one happens the most. Think about it. Oh, I see 93 and I also see 93 again. So I'll say it's 93. The range is your max minus the min. So if you're not sure what the max and min are, you can look right here. That would be 98 minus 83. Which gives me 15. And the standard deviation is right there. That's 4.79. We can just say 4.8. So what you need to know here, and just to save time, I'm not going to add 10 points and type all of these in. So if I were to add 10 points, this would then become 100, 100, 103. Our range would stay the same. It would still be 15 because our new max would be 108 minus 93. And our standard deviation would stay the same. So when we add points consistently to our data, everything just goes up by 10, but the range and the standard deviation will stay the same. However, if we multiply by a percentage increase, then our data will change and everything will be multiplied by 1.1. So if I were to multiply our original statistics over here by 1.1, that's what would change here. So just keep this page for reference when you're working on your assignment, just because there is going to be a little bit of transformational data that you're going to want to be aware of. And you're welcome to work this out on your own so you can see how that kind of works and do it in your calculator. So how did the 10 bonus points change the mean, median, mode? Well, the 10 bonus points adds to the mean, median, mode. So because we added 10 points to our data, our mean, median, mode changes, but the range and standard deviation do not. The 10% increase, how does that change everything, the mean, median, mode, and the standard deviation? So all of our original stats were on this side, ended up being multiplied by 1.1, and that's how we could see that. Okay, so you will have a few more videos to watch here for this chapter. So go ahead and you can continue videos or take a look at your homework. Thanks.